All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Dumb and Drummer. This is episode 17. We have our esteemed guest, Matt Bover. How you doing, bro?
Thank you, brother. I'm doing great, man. Doing good today.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's jump right in. Tell us what you're up to drumming wise right now.
So nowadays, man, it's almost a full-time job just trying to become a better drummer than you were yesterday, honestly. So as much time as I possibly can, I'm practicing every second that I can. Besides practicing, I'm doing a lot of lessons, teaching people. Couple, things are opening up now with COVID, so starting rehearsals and hopefully getting some gigs soon with some various artists and stuff. But
Nice.
mostly it's just practicing. I'm writing another book right now. So I could talk about that later. Um, so between practicing, teaching a lot of people, yeah, that's what I'm up to right now.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
where do you practice? Do you have a setup in
So I
your
have
house?
Yeah, I have a studio. It's in a warehouse. I have a little like private studio, a drum studio. It's a nice big room. I got a bunch of kits. Sometimes I have some friends drive down. We go at it for a while, but yeah, I teach drums out of there. I practice out of there, record out of there, everything.
Nice, man. Nice. So how often are you doing lessons and stuff like that then?
It's like every day,
Every
almost
day. Wow.
of the week. So I do lessons. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sometimes Friday, but yeah, I do a lot of lessons out of there.
Tight,
Usually,
man.
usually through Zoom, a couple in person, but that's starting to slowly come back too. With the whole, COVID restrictions are coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, more people are coming in, which is great. I much prefer that actually in person versus the Zoom thing.
Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I'm curious, and this isn't on the list of questions, but what is the music scene like in New York as far as being able to play the music that you want, and I mean, is it pretty much getting back to normal?
So I'm not in the city. I'm in upstate, so I'm in the middle of the woods. Here is it's a lot different than it would be in the city. I'm like 2 hours from the city, so I could commute to the city. I'm hoping to do that in the future at least. I'm going to stay here in New York. I'm contemplating making the move somewhere. Here where I am right now is it's really really tough. There's not many other musicians to play with. I have a small group of friends I play with, couple bassists, couple guitar players, but playing the music you want here is very very hard, man. It's mostly just cover, some wedding stuff. Yeah, people want to hear their covers here and go to a bar and hear the things they like. So, being an original band here is really hard. But you know what? It's
Yeah.
good practice, man. I try not to dog on the cover gigs too much, man, because there's a lot of things you can learn from emulating other drummers, in covers and trying to get that sound and get that feel down right.
Yeah.
And that's a skill that every musician needs. It's kind
Yeah.
of funny. It's kind of a meme, but
Yeah. I mean, that's the common feedback is like, hey, the gigs that are available are and the ones that pay are not, my
yeah,
first choice. It's
yeah.
the cover songs and stuff like that. I don't really know. I've never really met anybody that was like, I enjoy playing covers. You like playing your instrument. You like playing live. You like playing for an audience. I mean, all that stuff is a trade off, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, and like I said, it's important skills in learning covers. It's important skills that every musician needs to learn. But it is kind of a meme. But
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do. I love playing music with other people and playing out any chance I can get. So, especially around here, the gigs are very dry, and especially since COVID, the gigs are almost non-existent. So, any kind of fun I can have with my friends playing, or I want to take it.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So you did mention your book, and I did buy it. But full
Thank you.
transparency, I have not gotten into it. So I might need to book some time with you just to like break the ice and get into it. But
Any Anytime, brother.
word,
Thank
word.
you.
I'll definitely hit you up because I mean I don't feel like I'm going to start honestly if I don't have like a Kickstart. But the book is
I know.
awesome.
Thank you,
It's
brother.
just like a PDF. I downloaded it. For those of you who are listening that don't know, it's just like endless permutations, like permutations of
Yep.
groups of 5, groups of 7.
I got the only real copy right
Oh, you got the
here.
paper copy right there. That's
I
awesome.
I'm working on getting this mass produced actually, so
Nice, nice.
hopefully that
Yeah,
happens in the soon
I think a lot of
future.
people would like that too, to put it on the music stand and have a physical copy. But
Seriously,
can,
yeah,
can you
yeah.
tell us what was kind of the motivation and thought process on mapping out all those permutations?
So man, this is where it all came. This is where it all started. So I was in Berklee. When I first got to Berklee, I had never drum shedded with other people. I had never done that thing. So the second I did it, my first drum shed, because when everybody who comes to Berklee, they're like the best drummers in their hometown, you know.
Yeah.
So when I came to Berklee, I was like, yeah, man, I can solo, I can do a little ripping, you know. And then you get into your first drum shed, and you're like, oh my god, like I suck. You know, what was I thinking? So I went through maybe I'm thinking about how long it was, maybe a year or so of going to drum sheds with a couple of my friends every once a week, and I was slowly getting better. I was slowly progressing, and being able to do those sort of things. But I was like, you know, first off, I had a lot of stickings in my head. I never written them down, and it got to the point where it was like, you know, so many things in my head that I have not gotten control of yet or really focused on. And it was hard to keep track of all these different ideas in my head. It was really tough. So a teacher I had at Berklee was like, hey man, like you have all these stickings in your head, write them down. Just write them down, so you have them on paper so you can just see them,
Yeah.
because sometimes it would take me a second. Oh, you got this sticking, and then later in the day you think of other stickings, and you could just sit there and just think of hundreds of stickings if you
It's
want,
endless. Yeah.
combinations. It's endless. So eventually I was like, you know what, it's endless, yeah, but if I think of a random sticking right now, I'm gonna forget about it tomorrow unless I
Right.
write it down and practice it. So I started writing down all the things that came in my head, all these little ideas, between whatever, 2 note, 3 note, 4 note, all the way up to, I think my book has 18 note stickings, I think, or maybe even a 20 note sticking. But anyway, just writing down all the different sticking ideas. So then it was like, okay, I think I got to the point where I had maybe like 30 stickings, and then I was like, you know what, like I could double this
Let's just
if
bump
I
it up to
just
3,000, baby. Let's go.
more than double actually. I mean, like man, if you have a 4 note sticking and you permutate it, then you have 4 different variations of a 4 note sticking. That means you have 16 different stickings.
Mhm.
So I was like, I have 30 stickings, and I was like, I could permutate all these however many times, and then I would have like whatever it was, 100 stickings or something, 200 stickings just from these 30 stickings. So I was like, wow, this is actually crazy. So then I started writing down more. I wrote down all the different permutations for every sticking, and then eventually I would practice the permutations of stickings, and then make slight changes here and there, and then I bet you find new stickings. It it was just that. It was just exploration, experimentation, just experimenting, finding new ideas, and then being like, okay, I can permutate this idea. Now I have whatever 4 times the stickings than I did prior. So
Yeah.
that's why I started writing things down, and that's exactly actually how the whole book came out. The first half of the book was those ideas I first came up with, and then I permutated them. And then the second half of the book came from me practicing the first half, and then finding new loopholes and finding new
Okay.
modifications. That's really the word. Finding new modifications um, that I thought were just as sick, and I was like, these have to be included, because once you practice, for me it was, at least when I practice some, a permutation of an original idea. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, this permutation doesn't really feel right.
Mhm.
I'm playing it. I don't really know if this is very useful though.
Yeah.
That'd be the thing. I don't really know if it's very useful. Let me make a slight modification to it to make it feel a little bit more natural underneath my hands. flow more better and just easier to remember and recall. And so that's what would happen. I would practice these things and then I would make slight modifications. So that's the second half of the book where I made slight modifications. Sometimes it would be making a 9-note sticking into an 8-note sticking or whatever, like changing things up. And then you can permutate that. And there's a bunch of tools I didn't really even include, or I didn't really talk much in the book, that I plan on talking a lot more in the second book. Like, okay, you can get my whole book and then flip it to the left hand side or the other side, and then you have
Oh,
this.
off the left instead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, or whatever, and then you have this book times two.
Yeah,
That's just with that.
that's the
So
second book. You just like copy paste and insert
I
everything, and you're like, all right,
actually
volume two.
I actually kind of thought about that. Maybe not making like a volume two, making it like, I don't know, like something else, being like, because that's a whole other. I think my book has 1,500 stickings. That's a whole other 1,500 if you get the same stickings and just flip them to the other side. So it's
Yeah,
like, man, those are also equally valid ideas. So it's like, wow, it's crazy, endless. And
yeah.
I talk a little bit about it in the book, but there's a lot more other tools I could talk about later. But yeah, that was the idea for the book. Basically,
Word.
it just came down from me writing ideas down, which I strongly recommend anyone to do. Any of your ideas, no matter how short, how long, write it down so you can see it on paper. And I don't necessarily mean notation. I didn't write these in notation. I just would write right, left, kick,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
That's the PDF. It's just a list of like of the
Exactly.
sticking. So I guess like just kind of talking off the cuff, like what I would love to see is like the application,
Yeah.
because it'd be cool to sit down and just say, okay, it's a 9-note grouping, and typically I play 9 as right, 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 left, 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 right, right, right. Okay, so change it to right, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, left. Okay, and then
Yeah, yeah,
okay, all right, so cool. And then you have to figure out, okay, you have to figure out a groove, and then you have to figure out a fill, and
exactly.
a pattern repeat or whatever. Like there's a starting point, but like videos are
Exactly.
cool. I don't know if that's on the docket for the next round or anything, or like,
Yeah, yeah,
hey, here's an example for you. See figure one or something, and
yeah.
you already
That's
came up
a
with something that's orchestrated, to make it more digestible.
that's definitely been in the talks for a long time, making like a DVD to go along with the book or something
That'd be
like an
so sick.
instructional. Man, so many people have requested that, and I should have done it a lot earlier. But that's definitely something I really want to do.
Dude, it's a shitload of work, though. I mean, like
That's the thing.
the
It's
editing,
so
the audio. I mean, it could be
and
like a
money and
nightmare.
money.
Yeah, I mean, time is money, and it's away from lessons and stuff like that. So it's almost
Yeah,
like
it's hard, man. I want to do it so bad, but
well, you could just do. I mean, I talked to somebody the other day, and he never posts videos from interface recordings, like computer recordings. It's all off of his iPhone, and he knows
yeah,
exactly where to put the iPhone in the room. He knows exactly how to tune his drums, and he knows exactly where to like put the speaker for the music. So he doesn't have to mix anything. He just has the raw clip, and he can
yeah,
edit it on his phone and post it. So it could even be as as streamlined as that. I'm not
yeah,
trying to tell you how to do your thing, but like
yeah.
it
No,
doesn't
no,
have to
it's a
be a
good
big
idea.
production with different
Uh,
angles and everything. You could just be like, hey, here's the. You can hear the chop. I'm gonna play the chop for you. All right, go
exactly,
have fun with it. It doesn't have to be. I almost wish it
exactly.
was more like that in the drumming
Yeah.
community. There was less. Because I mean, how many drummers have you talked to that have like a ton of projects and they just never finish them because it's just
Oh
like
my God.
it's another like 8 to 10 hours minimum for me to finish this project, and honestly, I just don't fucking want to.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
lost interest a long time ago, and it's like, but the project is dope, and it's like it's dope, but I'm not gonna do anything with it. I'm just gonna let it
Yeah.
go. And it's sad because I mean, a lot of people would get into it if you just finish it out. So it's like, how do you streamline that
Mm.
process? Is the question.
Yeah, I like that idea, man. iPhones can record awesome videos nowadays. I mean, yeah, it's a good idea. Um, My a big thing why I didn't include, some people are kind of upset about this, why I didn't include notation in my book and it was just right hand, left hand. It's because I didn't want to impose my orchestration of a pattern already in somebody, because I know for myself and growing up and learning and stuff, and I know for a lot of other people, if you say, okay, learn this pattern, it goes from the floor tom to the snare to the crash to the, and they'll learn it note for note, but then they'll never ever take that raw sticking and then reorchestrate it on the drum set to however they want to play it. People are always asking me, why don't you include orchestrations and notation in the book? It's because I want you to get that sticking, just the sticking, and play it wherever you want to play it. That's the thing. And then doing the whole like groove and demonstration thing also kind of, I don't want people to, you know, just play it the way I played it and then never ever do anything past that. And that's the issue with these lick of the day Instagram videos and stuff. I kind of
Yeah.
because then people might learn that lick straight up and they will never experiment with it. Change it up, playing it in a different note rate, play it off of a different surface or whatever. A lot of these people, especially with the YouTube, like, oh, learn the 16th note gospel chop lick, and they learn it note for note, and then they never do anything else with it. So then it just becomes everyone's parroting off of each other. Everybody is, So a little bit about my book was like, I want to give you the information, and you do whatever the heck you want to do with it.
Got it.
So that's the thing. But I would also love to make videos and kind of show people a little bit of, okay, how to apply this to a groove. There's a lot of different contexts in which to put this content. That's a lot of things.
That's a really good idea, bro. I think that like I would love to see more of that. Like hey, here's the chop, but I'm gonna play it like 5 different ways because I have this lick and it's pretty hot and it's if that's a way of even saying it. It's so bitchin', bro. It's so it feels really good, and a lot of my licks are just one single kick and one double kick. So it's always very simple, but it means you can play it really fucking fast, which
exactly.
I like. You can, but I actually took it and I played it in like across 4 beats, and then I doubled it, so I sped it up twice as fast, and then played it twice in 4 beats.
Yeah. And
then I was like, can I play this 3 times and do a 3/4? And I did it, and I was like, my mind was just, I had the metronome going at like 85.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna fucking cram these notes into these 4 clicks.
Exactly.
And I guess it turned out to be, it was 3/4, but it's a 12 note pattern. So I did 36 notes in 4 beats. I don't even know what that equates to, but it was so dope because then when you slow it back down to regular speed, or even you go backwards, you go 1 2 3 and then 2 1. I'm off the metronome. I can't. My brain is like, you just crammed everything in, and now you want me to listen in and just play like regular speed. So it's like I wish there was more licks like that. Like, hey, here's a pattern, and I'm gonna play it for you a few different ways. Now I'm asking you, do not learn it the way that I just played it.
Yeah.
We're forbidden to play it in the context of it. Move it around.
Exactly.
You slow it down, you put it at 40 BPM, and you try to play it like 12 times in a measure or some shit, see what happens. Just like push yourself. But I agree with you. I mean, parroting is like the perfect word. I never had the word. Spit all over my computer screen. But yeah, it was like the parroting is I don't know, where did you hear that, out of curiosity?
That word?
Non-drumming term?
I don't even know where. I'd have to think about.
It's so perfect.
Where it is. Yeah, I was. I think I was actually. I don't know where I got that. I used that term, but I know a couple of days ago I was arguing with somebody about politics, and I used that term. Anyway, but That's exactly what it is, man. Everybody's
Yeah.
parroting off each other, the same licks, the same crap over and over again. And that's why now in 2021, you would imagine that we have the most original drummers of all time because technology advances. We have YouTube, we have all this information to access. But how come, I think that there's less creativity and less original, or less original players than ever. I think because everyone's learning from the same streams, and then they're not doing anything with that information. That's the biggest thing, man. So that's why a big thing about my practice is, I look at the stickings in the book, for instance, as my content, and then so that's the content side of the language, the vocabulary, drumming. So that's the content, and then there's the context. So how many different contexts can I put this content in? How many different? It's like you find a crazy new word, and like, okay, how many different sentences can I say this, and how, you don't just learn it like one way. You have to learn a new word in many different contexts, so you can speak freely utilizing that word. It's the same thing with drumming, man. So I try to put that same sticking, that same phrase in many different contexts. So the way you said it was great. You can span it across the whole bar, you can span it across a half bar, 3 times a bar into the 3/4 or the half note triplet, whatever, and then the
I just thought of, sorry to interrupt you, across the bar line. That's the
yeah,
other thing too. Like stretch it and make it 1.5 times.
exactly.
There's just so there, and dude, content and context. You're so spot on, man. But you know what? It's 99% content and 1% context on social media.
$100,000%.
It's a fucking hurricane of just spewing notes,
Yeah,
charts, and stickings,
yeah.
and the parrots, dude. The parrots
It's
are
a great,
flying everywhere above.
literally, man. Yeah, exactly. You have it so right. Nobody talks about the context, and if you really want to be a soloist, that should be probably the priority. Or if I should say, if you want to be a storyteller, the context is the most important part, more so than the content, because it's the context of what you say, your vocabulary, that makes it, gives it validity. It's like the same thing. People use this analogy that, okay, if you start talking about, how hot it is outside, and you start, and then the next sentence is about why you love eggs so much. It just makes, there's no context. I don't know. I'm just saying random crap, but there's no context to any, so you just sound like you're crazy,
Yeah.
Anyway, it could be used the same way for drumming, but the more mature you get as a drummer and the more able you get, you can actually use that to your advantage. So there are some times that I try to sound crazy on purpose. So, that just comes with maturity and experience and having control over those different avenues of expression. Like, do I want to sound like I'm psychotic freaking Hulk right now? Or do I want to sound like I'm a whispering, a whisper, or a bird, or like a mouse that's so quiet? There's different avenues. Or do I want to sound like I'm a storyteller telling a love poem, or do I want to sound like I'm really angry, like I'm about to punch the door down? There's these different avenues of expression that we can utilize. So that's a part of context, but context also can mean rhythmic context. So if you get a 6, like you're talking about, I'll use your example, 12 note sticking. So a 12 note sticking, you can play in so many different ways. You can play it in a half note, you can play it in a whole note, you can play it. You did something funky. You're saying you did a 12 note sticking within a half note triplet, the 3/4 thing.
Yeah.
That's really funky, because 12, a half note triplet is 8 triplets, 8 16th note triplets. So then you put 12 in that same space.
Yeah.
So that's really funky. That's really cool. I love that stuff. But you can, and then the thing is, like, okay, I can also start or end my phrase anywhere.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to, like you were saying, going over the bar line. Yeah, dude. So if you do a 12 note sticking, you could end it on 1, or I could do any note sticking. End it on 1. and on the E of one, and on the and of one, and on the of four, the and of four.
Yep.
You know, that's just the relative home around one. You know, the
Mhm.
and of four, of four, E of one, and of one,
It's
or
almost like
one.
if you had like a jazz chart and it had the accents and it was like, okay, you can play my lick, but you
Yeah,
have to end it on the accents on the jazz chart.
that's
And
also
it's
true
like,
too.
because then I would actually use it because so I keep on thinking back to this Justin Bieber's drummer.
Yeah,
Uh,
Devon Taylor,
yeah, Devon Taylor, yeah. So he
crazy.
on his New Year's Eve performance, there's a clip that he put on his Instagram where he's just massacring the end of the song,
Yeah,
and then it goes into it's a transition into another like just like chiller song, and I don't know any of the names, but I transcribed all of it. And I
oh my
tried to play it
god,
note for note. There's a video on my Instagram, and I didn't
yeah,
really get the feel right, but I was
huh,
happy just to get like a version out that I didn't absolutely hate.
yeah, yeah,
I have not used a single lick, a single element of
dude,
that, and I worked my ass off. I was probably like 5 or 6 hours into that project total,
dude,
practicing and editing and all that kind of stuff. And it's
yeah,
like that's sad that
that is so sad.
you just get the carbon copy. You do all that
Yeah,
work, so it's like that. That's for me personally. How do I take it and then actually adopt it as part of my vocabulary? So I'm not just that's just a
exactly.
one and done. And I feel like the jazz chart thing, the permutation thing, even dude. I mean, even what you're saying about hey, I want you to play the lick, but I want you to pretend like you're in a library and you have to
Hmm.
play as soft as possible because then you'll put
Yeah,
it in different places. You won't use the toms. You just
exactly.
use the maybe one voice to ride in the snare and be jazzy about it, and then you'd be like, "Hey, you had a bad day at work. I want you to play the lick like you're pissed off." You know, and then you add in double bass for some reason or whatever. It's like so,
Exactly.
but you don't see that shit happen, man. I've never had a lesson where I'm asked to do anything that outside the box.
Yeah,
And that's the
yeah.
context we're talking about. I think is that like
Literally.
what are educators doing? What is the community doing right now to make it stick and not just be like, "Oh, I got 40 million views on that video." That's
Exactly.
great, but like,
Man,
how are you, you know, evolving?
I can go so on and on about the whole thing you're saying, learning a transcription and then never being able to play it. I see that all the time on Instagram. People are like, here's my whatever transcription. They play it note for note and it's great and all. But then I always want to ask people after learning transcriptions, I'm like, okay, you learned it, great, awesome, but what are you going to do with that? And how are you going to make it your own? Because now you just played a Mac Arsica transcription or something.
Mhm.
Now how are you going to make it yours? How are you going to utilize it in your everyday life? And 9.9 out of 10 times people don't have an answer to that question
Yeah.
because they learn the transcription and that's it. They end it there and they just pray to the drum gods that all this vocabulary is just going to spew out of them at any given time. It's not how it works. It's not how it works in language. If you think about, I keep going back to language. If I'm learning a new language, I'm not gonna, I don't really know how to speak Spanish, but I know how to say, where's the bathroom? Donde el baño or something like that.
Donde está el
Anyway,
baño? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's the only sentence I can really say. I don't know how to use donde in any other sense. I don't know how to say al baño in any other context. I don't know how to say
Yeah.
any of those other things. I just know that sentence. So it's the same thing in the drum transcription. You're learning the whole essay, but you're not learning it word by word at a time. You're not learning what each word. You're not giving each word all the weight it needs and all the
Mhm.
reinforcement it needs to really stick inside your brain. You're just learning the whole essay, the whole solo, and it's like learning a sentence in another language and having no control or ability to use any of those words in that sentence on their own. It's the
Dude,
same thing.
that is the best analogy I've ever heard for what we're talking about because someone who's fluent in Spanish is going to listen to you and be like, "Dad, this kid is such a dumbass." Because if you memorize like a speech of some leader in Mexico or in Spain or South America or something like that,
Yeah,
and you learn it word for word the speech,
yeah,
and you enunciate it correctly and everything, but all you know is the speech. It's like a
exactly.
20-second public speaking engagement, but you memorize it in Spanish. What are the applications of learning that? You literally don't
Exactly.
know. There's future tense in Spanish. My partner's Spanish, so like,
All
or
right.
she's Venezuelan, so like I'm trying to learn Spanish.
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm trying to learn it through like Google Translate and shit like that. So it's been kind of a uphill battle here. But
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as the um, but as far as the context, like what you're saying, the only way I learn now is by applying what like I try to listen back and then I try
Mhm.
to remember as we're texting and I'm like, can I send this text without using Google Translate? So I'm
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
growing. But I don't need to. I can just put it into Google Translate and let it
yeah.
tell me exactly what it is, hit the copy button and paste it over. And I can do that
Exactly,
forever. Just like I can
exactly,
learn transition or transcriptions note for note forever.
exactly,
And I'll still
exactly.
be practicing and getting better, but there's
Yeah.
like yeah, I could talk about this all day, man. But this is a lot of the reason why I don't do Eric Moore and J Rod and these
Hmm.
transcriptions that I was doing before because it wasn't making me a better player.
Yeah.
Making my ear and my eye better, and there's applications for
Hmm.
that. But that's not what I
Yeah.
want to work on. I mean, honestly, I don't want to be a
Totally.
better transcriber. I'm fine with where I'm at. I want to be a better
Exactly.
player. You know what I mean?
Exactly. If you wanna use transcriptions to your benefit, you have to go into the transcript. You have to learn it. Okay, learn it first, and then you have to go in and find each little tiny, phrase they said that they played. Every. I don't want to say sticking because I'm talking about in phrases and trying to relate it to language, but
Yeah, yeah,
you find every punctuation that they said and practice just that. It could be one bar. Okay, let's just say you break it down bar by bar. Okay, learn that first bar, but I want you to practice that first bar at 20 beats per minute for 2 weeks straight, whatever, an hour or two a day, and just that either that first bar or that first half a bar. If I want to, I'm trying to tell people to err on the side of smaller instead of bigger. Err
yeah.
on the side of, okay, I want you to learn the first beat of this whole transcription and just practice that first beat for, very, very slowly, meticulously detailed, perfect for hours and hours for 2 weeks. And that's the only way you're going to be able to get these little trinkets of these little golden nuggets of vocabulary from these greats and utilize them to yourself is if you break it down piece by piece by piece and you have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, repetition, and you have to put it into your muscle memory. It's the only way, and then furthermore into your subconscious brain, so you could just be sitting there playing something else, and then this new idea comes through because you've developed it to the point where it comes out in your subconscious. That's why I'm, with you or any other person who's uh, good at the drums, they don't need to think about what a paradiddle is. I could be dead and still play a
Yeah.
paradiddle.
Yeah.
I don't need to. It takes no mental thought to play a
Yeah.
paradiddle. Well, okay, so if it takes no mental thought to play a paradiddle, how about we use that same scale to learn a nine note sticking or an Eric Moore phrase? How about you know, and then even deeper than that, man, the more control that you have over those pieces of vocabulary, then the more potent your performance comes across to the viewer, the listener, because you
Yeah.
have control. The people want to see you play things that you have control over, not things that you don't have control over. Not because when you have control over the things you're playing, then you can be your true self, and the listener can really that's half the greatness. The great thing about listening, it's not necessarily all the music. um it's half of the listener too, the guy who plays the notes. His
Yeah.
the charisma, the confidence, that shines through the performer to the listener, man. So when it's not all about just the music's half it, and then the performer's the other half. So but when you control these smaller little bits, you have more of an opportunity to emote and be yourself for the listeners' sake.
Yeah, so you're not just playing the same shit over and over again, too. I mean,
Exactly.
that's really
Yeah.
huge. So I mean, I feel remotivated on this topic. I hope the people that are listening are going to look at it differently. But yeah, I would just hope that as drummers, we don't we start giving things a second look. Like look at it through a different lens. Like
Hmm.
yes, somebody worked at like Matt worked his ass off to transcribe all of his own stuff. Like so, I mean, and it's available. Like I think all the Animals as Leader stuff is available. So I mean,
Yeah, it's
looking at it
crazy.
would be like you know unlocking the secret code of like
Yeah.
being amazing. But it is all in what you do with it. So yeah, 100% agree. I want to hear. some Berklee stories.
All right.
What is your favorite, most favorite experience or most memorable experience from Berklee?
All right. So there's a couple things. I don't know if I would ever say there's one favorite experience or the favorite experience that I can think of. I probably can't talk about.
Okay.
But in general, my favorite experiences at Berkeley, two things, towards the second half, after I wrote the book, I was really motivated to shed with other drummers, and that was my biggest thing. Was I wanted to keep on shedding. It was friendly competition. So it was no egos, no I'm better than you, I want to beat you, But it was like utilizing your friends to help you get better. So I would get together with almost I think I shedded with almost every drummer at Berklee. Almost would
Damn.
come. I would host sheds. I would host drum sheds at Berklee for sometimes 4 to 6 hours every night. It would go kind of late into the night. And I would just shed with anybody who wanted to sit down. We would have big groups, small groups of people, sometimes 3 guys, sometimes 15 guys would come. And that was one of the best times of my life. I'm looking back, I'm like, just having your friend, awesome drummer friends around you, pushing you, you're pushing them.
Mm-hmm.
You're kicking butt and you're also getting your butt kicked, So it's just kind of, it inspired me to really try to get better and better and better, faster, more powerful, have more vocabulary, all these things. So you're not just playing the same things over and over and over again, because that
Right.
ain't gonna fly for very long. You can't have drum sheds for 6 hours and play the same things over and over and over again. You gotta constantly be evolving. So the drum sheds were definitely one aspect, and I miss that so much. Here, there's no other drummers really where I'm at, so that doesn't really happen here, which is it's sad. But
Host
you
one in
know
the
what?
woods.
I'm sorry, what?
Host one in the woods.
I know, right? I should. I should. Sometimes I have friends that drive down here, and it's good. But yeah. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is definitely hanging out with my teachers, who were my biggest inspirations, and still some of my biggest inspirations. Seriously, hanging out with them till late at night. Sometimes having late night shed sessions with my teachers.
Nice.
Dave DeCenzo was a guy who I hung out with almost. It probably was close to 8 hours a week. We'd get together, and he was my teacher, so we had a lot of lessons, but also hanging out after lessons. Going to shows. Talking to drum stuff, and that was so inspiring. There was Dave DeCenzo, Ralph Peterson, who unfortunately just passed away not too long ago,
Oh man. Sorry to
and
hear
Marco Georgievic, and James Murphy. Those 4 guys were my teachers that I really tried to hang out with as much as I could, and they all are crazy. And just having drum set, probably one of the best memories I have at Berklee. I'll never forget this. One day I had Marco Georgievic and Dave DeCenzo. I got to shed a couple times with those guys, my teachers, and that was just like, man, this is so cool. Like, I got these 2 guys who I think are like some of the best drummers alive, and I'm just shedding with them, trying to keep up, and we're all just having fun. We're all like, oh, that was sick. It was just a great time. So that was probably one of the best memories I have. Is a couple of those late night. Those were pretty late in the 11, 12, midnight, where we're just shedding, going crazy, sweating like crazy, and it's so inspiring. Because then you have your teachers afterwards being like, oh, you really kicked ass, but you're tensing up or something. There always would be some sort of constructive criticism afterwards. Like,
That's good.
so that was definitely some of my best memories. But the drum sheds, being able to practice like all hell, at Berklee, we get to practice like 17 hours a day. So there, I get to practice an ungodly amount. Because I had, besides classes, which I didn't have that many classes. I would just get to practice because what else am I going to do? Sit at home
Yeah.
and watch Netflix? No, I'm here for a short amount of time, 4 years, and I got to make the best out of it. So I was practicing from anywhere from 10 to 17 hours every day,
That's
trying to get
insane.
better. It was a lot. And unfortunately, now that I graduated, it's a lot harder, as everybody says. You got to now I just got my own apartment. I have to, try to find work. And when the drum work doesn't work, you gotta find a part-time crappy job elsewhere, and then do drums on the side. So,
That's
you know,
everybody, man. That's
it's
every. I mean,
everybody.
let's. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. Like,
Yeah, literally.
I'm so successful, da da da. But I got to drive for Uber Eats, or I got to
Yeah,
because you know what, you're a real human being, and drums don't pay you enough to support your family. So I mean,
I
like, welcome
know.
to the club. Like, have a corporate job.
Exactly.
There are a few people that are lucky enough to do drums full time.
Yeah.
It sounds real stressful to me though.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like that's a
It's so
lot of pressure.
finite.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a pandemic. I mean, gigs aren't even in full swing, and then also like, you really want to gig like all the time? I mean, is that really
Yeah.
the dream? Is your dream to break your back,
Yeah,
loading and
right.
unloading your drums multiple
Exactly.
times throughout the week to play for,
Exactly.
play for pay or pay for play? It's just not. I,
Exactly.
it's
It's
not
it's
for me.
finite.
I'm not knocking anybody else who's decided.
Yeah, it's very finite, man. At any moment, it can be taken away from you. It's just, and if you're living that life, there's good chances that you're not making very good money. So you're probably living paycheck to paycheck for most,
Yeah, and
and or whatever,
it's a taboo subject. I think Harry
Yeah,
Marie is the only person that really was like, no bullshit. I will tell you how much money I make, and
yeah,
I'll tell you
yeah.
the most money I've ever made. And there's something about if you're a vocalist or something, like I can maybe see that,
Mhm.
like show up with your fucking microphone,
Yeah, right.
stroll in, and all right, I'm ready, guys. Whatever. Let me da da
Exactly.
da 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 da. Okay, I'm ready, guys. It's like, okay, well, fuck you. Like, all right,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
exactly.
be ready for another like 40 minutes, but.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody wants to help you either. It's just
Yeah,
drama,
yeah, that's the thing. Like I really miss playing gigs though, and I like to do it occasionally. But I feel like the only way I could play gigs now in Austin is if I just put out an ad and be like, I'm a drummer for hire, and I just don't want
Mhm.
to do that. I mean, I want to play original music.
Yeah.
I am an original band, but we're struggling finding gigs. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and then even when we're talking about, oh, there might be a gig or there might be an opportunity for me to like play out, I'm just looking at my studio and I'm looking at everything is like absolutely perfectly set up. Like it's been like overly scrutinized because it's just sat there
Yeah.
for a year. It's all mic'd
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
mixed, everything's perfect, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to touch that right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
All that's fine. Like I will buy another drum kit right now for my I
Yeah.
will text my Sweetwater rep and be like, sell me the PDP birch walnut with the wood hoops that I've been wanting for like 5 years.
I love
Sell me
that
that
kid.
shit, and that will be my gigging kit. And I'm not gonna
Yeah.
take my fucking drums out of the studio. I'm just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I got. I got my nice setup, all nice and set up and stuff, and I have a gigging kit. It's a lot crappier of a kit that I'm not going to cry if it gets a scratch on it or something.
That's really
Um,
smart, man. That's really smart.
yeah, I think that's the way to do it, man. Because I'm not trying to, because then if you take out your kit, you have to not only tear it down, but then you got to set it back up again. If I have another kit, it can just stay stacked up in the corner, and I
No,
can
man.
stack it back up. When
I'm not about. Yeah, I'm gonna stack a kit up in the corner if we're gonna do gigs. But I mean,
exactly.
it is kind of nice though because I have that pro rack. So
Yeah.
at a gig, you can just have like 90% of everything on the rack, and then
Yeah.
get one other person to help you just lift the whole thing on the stage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, I think depending on, and then sometimes, man, I mean, you work so hard, and everybody's like aesthetically, everything looks so good, but then you never even hear the person play. It's all drums, are
Yeah.
not like aesthetics only.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Know a couple of those.
for those people, like setting up is like just such a chore and such a process. It's not even about the music anymore. So I don't want to lose that either. Like I would rather. Oh, here, that's what I was gonna say. You got the D-Dub kit, you got $15,000 invested, and then you go to the gig and they're like, oh, this is a backline gig.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I want to use my $15,000 drums, and it's like, no, it's a backline gig. So
Yeah.
bring your cymbals and your
Happens.
snare, but that this is the way that it is, man. Like, and
Yeah.
backline gigs are great. Everything's mic'd up and mixed.
Yeah.
Cuts down on takes pressure off you. You just got to
Mhm.
use some different shit. So
Oh man, it's happened so many times where they tell you. One gig happened last year. They said we no backline. You have to bring everything. So I brought my nice crap. I brought my nice everything, and it was at a big festival. I had to go down, go through all up here, there, drive
Checkpoints,
around,
and you
and
get your badge and all that.
exactly. I had to have a golf cart with a guy carrying my drums in the back of a golf cart and stuff.
Damn.
And then we get to the stage, and then they already have a drum set. Everything's already mic'd up, and I'm like, yo, I just had to go all the way from the parking lot all the way through here with my drums, and it's already all set up. They told me there was nothing, and it was like, oh, too bad. You either use our stuff or you don't.
Well, where are you gonna put your drums during the gig?
I had to put it back. I had to put it in the backstage, but I didn't like that.
You're not gonna leave it in your car.
Exactly, and it was like a festival outdoors, so it was backstage. It was just behind the stage, and anybody could have just gone up there and grabbed the tom or something.
Yeah, you're playing. They could have grabbed the snare. Well, you probably used your snare, but like they could have grabbed anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they could have, and it was really frustrating because carrying drums and having to deal with that crap is so stressful.
Well, I mean, now I have a hand truck, and there are. Have you seen that thing? It's like a hand cart, but it's got it's like the cases, so you only make one trip. You have a cymbal bag over your thing, and then there's it's like a cart. It's got the bass drum on the bottom. It's got these little like zip things.
Oh yeah, is that Groove Gear or something?
Groove Gear, yeah. That shit is amazing because it's like that's the biggest thing. But even having a hand cart, it's like a dolly that can break down into a hand cart. Even having that was like a complete game changer at a gig. So just make it easy yourself. But I think we can agree that like most of that sucks, and especially if you're like y'all are playing a 20-minute set, and it's like 20 minutes, bro. It's gonna take me like 10 times that amount to like get everything from here to there, and then you live in upstate New York, so like where's the gig? Like how long is it take you to get to the gig?
Yeah, an hour at least.
An hour? Oh shit! Like my gig could take me like 10 minutes. Like I'm trying to go like 6th Street or whatever. Like But anyway, so a couple more questions here, and then we can call it a day here. The pieces of gear you can't live without. Like what are the two things that stand out to you more than anything?
All right, so if we're just talking about, if I'm going to gigs and they have the drum set already all set up, I've never seen it. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it sucks. I don't know, but I'm going to trust them that they have a drum set and I don't have to bring anything. The two things that are going in my backpack that have to absolutely come at all costs are a pack of moon gels, and I actually have. I recommend everyone to make one of these. An old drum head. You cut out an old drum head and you kind of make a big fat snare drum-esque kind of thing.
Okay.
But mine's small. The one I have is like a
8-inch or 10-inch.
Yeah, it might be 8 inches. Yeah, or 10-inch, something like that. And I use that only for the floor tom because sometimes these crappy backline kits have a floor tom you hit, you go or something, and you don't have the time to sit there and tune it and tweak it. With the whole kit, you don't have time to really tune and tweak. So what I'll do is I'll get this. I guess you could use a big fast snare drum if you got one, but if you don't got one, I got this little tortilla looking thing, and I throw it on the floor tom, and it sounds like a floor tom, because of that low end, and it cuts out the ringy sound, and it works great for the gig, fine. And the moon gels, that's for like most of the snare, maybe the tom if it needs it, but most of the snare. And those are the two most important things that are coming with me. Besides, I might bring sometimes I bring like an extra T-shirt for the bass drum if it needs it, or some small things like that. Definitely a drum key. Definitely your drumsticks. I've seen some people not bring drumsticks and have to ask other people in the lineup, "Do you got drumsticks?" Yeah, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
So bring your drumsticks. But those are the two most important things, and it's kind of lame for me to say those two things, but I'm not. I've played so many different drum kits going through Berklee and doing random gigs around where they have really crappy drums already set up, and you kind of have to make it work no matter what. That I personally can deal with a crappy drum set and be okay with it as long as I can try to make that snare sound good, the floor tom sound relatively good, and the kick drum, if it needs a ton of dampening and if it's a thud, that's good enough for me as long as it works. If the tom is terrible, I just won't use the tom. But those are the most important voices I think for any normal everyday gig. It's just a snare full time kick. So those are the two small things that I try to always bring. If I have to bring my own stuff, um, the two things I wouldn't leave the house without if I had to bring my own stuff. That's a hard question.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, that's a hard question. You know, oh man, yeah, that almost never happens to the point, that I have to bring my own. That I have to like bring everything myself.
Well, let's just. I think a better way of asking the question is like it is a backline gig, but they're like if you
Okay.
want to bring like your snare and cymbals or other shit,
Okay.
your pedals or whatever, you can. And
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that gig, what would you make sure you're like? Oh shit, I gotta pack it all in one bag, or I don't have a ton of room
Yeah.
or whatever. You can only bring like two things. What would those two things?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I guess if that's the case, I would probably I would probably bring a crash symbol of some sort because usually backline crashes are really crappy and really bright, like B8 or something like that.
Yeah,
Really, they're usually pretty crappy. At least the crashes. The hats, you can make kind of crappy hi hats sound okay. I think for an everyday normal gig, nothing special. So I might bring a crash and a ride. You know, so that's probably the most important thing. Snare drums, I can usually make a really crappy snare drum sound pretty good with
yeah.
either a wallet or some moon gels and just crank the piss out of it.
That's like the best approach to snare drum like tuning. Feel like my snare sounds like shit. I'm like, have you tightened it to the max? Have you
Exactly.
done like 19 turns on each lug and just see? Because if you stand
Exactly.
Bicknell, there's a lot of people that just have cranked snare drums, and
Yeah, true.
depending on the material,
Yeah,
that doesn't really work for wood. But any metal snare drum, in my
yeah.
experience, just crank the fuck out of it. It would
I
sound so much better if it was
I
higher
agree.
pitched, and
I
you get that
agree.
crack on the. You want a crack on the rim shot. Like I'm all about warm wood drums and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
I'm a
I
brass boy.
agree.
I'm a brass boy
Yeah,
all day.
love
And
that.
that shit sounds real. I got the 8x14 brass, free float.
Oh, even
So
better, even
my
better,
shit is like a fucking gunshot. You know what I mean? But you
even
crank
better,
it
man.
up.
Even better. And the cool thing about bringing a little tortilla cutout head thing, if there's one tune that like could use a low snare sound, you can get that thing off the floor tom and throw it on your snare. And even
Yep.
if your snare's cranked, it will give it that kind of lower sound.
Yeah.
So either cut out a head or bring a big fat snare drum. I have a big fat snare drum, but I still always end up bringing the small little one for some reason. Just a little more portable. It's small. I can put it in my pocket, in my book bag or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the man for dealing with backline crappy drums. I think that's the most important thing for me is moon gel pack, a full pack, a cutout drum head, and maybe a T-shirt for the kick drum or something if I need
That's
it.
sick, man. I just love asking that question because everybody's approach is different. They're like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to
yeah,
lead without my signature ride, or I'm not going to lead without, a lot of people say snare or like pedals.
yeah. Yeah,
Like it could kill a gig if you have a bass drum pedal that again, you said you didn't have time to tune. Like for me,
yeah.
if my bass drum foot isn't like I remember gigs where I'm just like, how the fuck do you play this? Like it's hitting my leg, like it's hitting
It's
the
true.
front of my leg,
Yeah,
and I can't and maybe it's just not adjustable. Maybe it's like broken or something.
yeah, yeah,
And like
yeah,
I can't play the gig. Like I won't be able to.
yeah.
So
I wish I
that's
had a better answer. I wish I had a better answer.
no, that's a great answer. I mean, I think that's a product of your upbringing, if you will.
Mm,
That you sit down in a kit and you've been in so many situations where you it's not an option,
yeah,
or maybe it is, but it's a shed session and be like you can't just play it the way it is. Like I'm sorry, we
exactly.
can't give you 10 minutes in between, breaks to make sure your snare angle is perfect and all this kind of shit. You just
Exactly.
need to sit and go. It's just a plug and play
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly. For me, the feel of the drum is the most important thing. If I'm going to play a show that has to feel right, and the best way to make it feel right for me is first through tuning. And if it's not, if it doesn't feel right still through tuning, then I'll dampen it. And I like that kind of that when the head is dampened, it kind of gives it a little bit of a harder feel to the stick a little bit, a little
Yeah,
more of a dead feel. I usually like that. Yeah, that's another reason why I like the cutout head on the floor tom because it gives a more first off more thuddy sound, but it gives it a more thuddy feel too, like more dead. But the feel is the most important thing, and you can usually rectify a feel issue through tuning.
Or, yeah, or dampening, because
or dampening.
that growl you're talking about is either the interval's too wide. So
Yeah.
it needs to be closed up. So you can either tighten the top head or tighten the bottom head. So if you ever have that growly situation, I'm just saying, like, only because I made a tuning video recently and I had to figure it out
Yeah.
on the fly. You can tune up one head or the other, and the growl will go away.
Yes.
It's like on a bell curve. It's
Mm.
like no growl, the interval's fine. Then the interval's too far, it's way too far. Okay, the interval's getting
Yeah.
better, and then all of a sudden, and you can go top head, bottom head on
Wow.
either end of the spectrum, and you have that bell curve where it sounds like complete. It's like a wow, wow, wow sound. You know, it's horrible, and
Yeah,
you
it is.
dampen
Yeah.
it, but then you have just like a wow, wow, wow. It doesn't go away, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the tuning will. But it's always the fucking floor tom.
Yeah. It
It's
used.
the
Yeah.
depth of the drum that gives it that growl. Like the middle tom kind of does it, but I like that. I like a little growl on my
Yeah. I hear you.
tom.
Yeah.
But the floor toms, man, that's so common to sit on and just hit it and be like, ugh, damn.
Oh, same, dude. I love a floor tom that sounds like a kick drum. Personally,
With
I
a
like the
you
way
got
I
a
like
kick
to
drum head
tune
on it or
drums.
something.
Yeah, exactly. The way I like to tune drums, I kind of learned it from Stuart Copeland when I was watching him when I was like young. He said something like, "I like my top toms to be like timbales and my floor tom to be a kick drum or something like that." And ever since then, that's been my approach. Is like I like my first tom pretty cranked, my second tom, like my first tom cranked, my floor tom is a bass drum. So I have to have that middle tom be the connecting tissue
Yeah.
between those two tones. So that's how I like it. I like a really low, dummy low floor tom. So and dead like a kick drum. So it's just like a big thud. So that head, the cutout head gives it that feel and that dampening. I just don't like hitting a floor tom sometimes at random gigs. And like you said, it's either cranked too high or the interval is all messed up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got that weird wonk, and it doesn't feel right, and you're like, oh my god, I'm never gonna hit that during this gig. And you know what? If I'm at a gig and everything fails and I can't get anything to sound good, I'll just use kick drum and snare drum,
Yeah.
and cymbals or whatever. I won't even, I'll try to make it work the best that I can without those pieces if I don't need them. Yeah, because most gigs, nowadays most gigs can be done with just a kick snare and a couple
I
of
mean, we
cymbals,
were just talking about that with the covers thing. Like you really need like 7 toms, or like 8 cymbals or something to play like Miley Cyrus and fucking AC/DC or whatever. Like you probably
Exactly.
you could probably get
No, you don't.
away with a
No,
one
you
up, one
don't.
down type of situation. But
Exactly.
yeah, that's a really good response, man. That's a really
Thank you.
great answer because it's more of like a toolbox
Yes.
approach. Like, hey, this is a job. It's a paid job. If I'm an electrician or something like that, yeah, I'm gonna show up in a truck, but I'm not gonna bring everything in my truck inside. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be like,
exactly.
here's the job. Okay, it's a new house. I need to tweak a couple things. I can fit everything in one bag. I'm gonna take the bag
Yeah.
in here. But then I have another job down the street. I'm gonna need the other shit. I'm gonna need my ladder.
Yeah.
I need all my other tools or whatever. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's solid, bro.
Thank you.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you you coming on. It was a blast to start out my Saturday chatting with you.
Man, I can't thank you enough. Really, man. I really appreciate the drum nerding out. It's really nice to finally talk and meet, man. I hope we can do it more soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. I can't thank you enough. I love this kind of stuff. I love just talking drum stuff and getting nerdy. And not enough people out there are hungry for that kind of knowledge and that kind of nerding out. So I love it. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, man. I do think they're out there, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. And there are people that still hit me up randomly and are like, "Hey, I was checking out the podcast, and I never even knew they were listening." So I mean, like,
Yeah.
there are people that again are gonna get inspired by the things that like I get inspired. So I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody, brother.
Man. Hell yeah. Totally.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Matt. See you next time.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you, everybody.